A day after we moved into the new apartment, the previous owner called me and said, "I forgot to turn off a hidden camera. I saw what your son did while you were at work. Come over right now, alone." When I saw the footage, I understood that everything I thought I knew about my family was a lie, but I'm getting ahead of myself. The move happened on a Tuesday, late September, warm enough that sweat soaked through my shirt by the third trip up the stairs. Jared carried boxes like he'd been doing manual labor his whole life, which was funny because the kid had spent most of his 20s in front of a computer screen. His wife, Emma, directed traffic from the doorway, clipboard in hand, making sure everything went to the right room. "Dad, you want this in the bedroom or the office?" Jared held up a banker's box labeled Documents. "Office," I said. "Thanks." He smiled. Perfect teeth. He'd gotten braces in high school, and I'd worked overtime for 6 months to pay for them. Worth it, I'd thought then. Investment in his future. Emma checked something off on her clipboard. "We're making great time. At this rate, we'll be unpacked by Thursday." "You two don't have to do all this," I said. "I know you've got work." "It's fine," Jared said. "We took the week off. Wanted to help you settle in?" That should have been my first clue. My son, who'd called maybe twice in the past year, suddenly taking vacation time to help his old man move. But I was tired, and the gesture felt good, so I didn't question it. The apartment was decent. 2 bedrooms, updated kitchen, hardwood floors that creaked in a friendly way, management building, professionally run, security cameras in the lobby. After the divorce, I'd downsized from the house in the suburbs, and this place felt right. Manageable. Mine. The previous owner had left it immaculate. Not a scratch on the walls, not a stain on the carpet. I'd met him once during the walkthrough. Older guy, maybe 70, with careful movements and precise speech. "Retired civil engineer," the realtor had said. Obsessive about details. "Everything works," he told me during that walkthrough, tapping each light switch, each cabinet door. "I've kept records, maintenance logs, all in the folder on the counter." I'd thanked him and thought he was a bit much, but hey, better than moving into a place held together with duct tape and prayers. By 6 p.m. on moving day, most of the boxes were inside. Emma ordered pizza. We sat on the floor of the living room because I hadn't assembled the furniture yet, paper plates balanced on our knees. "This is nice," Emma said. "Really nice, Dad." I wasn't her father, but she'd started calling me that a few months after the wedding. I'd never corrected her. She was polite, well-dressed, always said the right thing. Graphic designer, freelance, made good money. She and Jared seemed happy. "Thanks for all the help today," I said. "Of course." Jared wiped pizza grease from his fingers. "Your family." Something in the way he said it felt rehearsed, but I blamed my own cynicism. The divorce had made me suspicious of niceness. My ex-wife had been nice right up until she served me papers and took half of everything. After they left, I unpacked for another hour, then collapsed into bed around 11. The mattress was on the floor because I hadn't put the frame together. I stared at the ceiling, listening to unfamiliar sounds, pipes humming, footsteps above me, a siren in the distance. I fell asleep thinking about how quiet the place would be once I got used to it. The call came at 9 a.m. the next morning. I was in the kitchen, instant coffee in hand, staring at the stack of boxes labeled Kitchen Misk. I worked for the city's transit authority, managing bus depot maintenance schedules. Not glamorous, but steady. I had the day off, and I'd planned to spend it unpacking. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Mr. Brennan." The voice was calm, measured, familiar, but not quite placeable. "Yeah, who's this?" "Gerald Morse. I sold you the apartment." "Oh, right." I set my coffee down. "Is there a problem?" "I need you to come to my house. Right now. Alone." The hairs on the back of my neck stood up. "Why?" "I forgot to turn off a hidden camera in the apartment. Security measure. I reviewed the footage this morning and saw something concerning." My mouth went dry. "What kind of something?" "Your son. While you were at work yesterday." His voice stayed flat, clinical. "I need you to see this in person. The address is in the sale documents. Come alone, Mr. Brennan. Don't tell your son. Don't tell anyone." "Wait, what did he—" I stood there holding my phone, heart hammering. A hidden camera. Illegal as hell, probably. But that wasn't what made my hands shake. It was the tone, the careful emphasis on alone. I thought about calling Jared, demanding an explanation, but Morse's words echoed in my head. "Don't tell your son." I grabbed my keys. Morse lived 20 minutes away in a ranch house with a meticulously maintained lawn. Every blade of grass the same height, flower beds arranged in perfect symmetry, the kind of place where you wiped your feet 3 times before entering. He answered the door before I knocked. "Mr. Brennan, come in." The interior matched the exterior. Spotless, organized, furniture arranged at precise angles. He led me to a small office off the living room, gestured to a chair in front of a computer desk. "I apologize for the camera," he said, sitting down. "After my wife died, I became cautious. I installed it in the apartment before I moved out. Meant to disable it before closing, but I'm 73 and I forgot." He moved the mouse and the monitor came to life. I check the feed every morning out of habit. This morning I saw this. He clicked play. The footage was black and white, slightly grainy, but clear enough. Timestamp showed yesterday, 2:47 p.m. The camera was positioned high in the corner of my bedroom, angled down. I recognized the boxes, the mattress on the floor, the window with the blinds half open. Jared entered the frame. He moved quickly, purposefully. No hesitation. He went straight to the closet, pushed aside the hanging clothes I'd put there the night before, and pulled out a file box from the top shelf, the one labeled Documents. My stomach dropped. On screen, Jared opened the box, pulled out folders, started photographing pages with his phone. Birth certificate, social security card, bank statements, tax returns, medical records, everything. "Keep watching," Morse said quietly. Jared's phone buzzed. He looked at it, typed something, waited. Another message came through. He nodded to himself, took more photos, then pulled out papers I recognized. Legal documents from the divorce, settlement agreement, asset division. He photographed all of it. He pulled out a small notebook from his pocket and started writing, copying information, account numbers, routing numbers, passwords I'd written down because I was old-fashioned and stupid and trusted that a locked file box in my own closet would be safe. The footage showed him working for 11 minutes, methodical, calm. He checked his phone twice more, typed responses, kept working. When he finished, he put everything back exactly as he'd found it, returned the box to the shelf, and left the room. Morse paused the video. "There's more." He fast-forwarded. 4:15 p.m. Emma entered the bedroom. She went straight to the closet, pulled out the same box, and began the same process. Photographing, writing. She spent 8 minutes working through documents, then her phone rang. She answered, spoke briefly, nodded, hung up. She took 3 more photos, then packed everything away and left. Morse stopped the video. "I have 3 hours of footage total. Your son came back twice. His wife came back 3 times. They worked in shifts while you were unloading the truck." I couldn't speak. My throat had closed up. "I'm showing you this because I'm a paranoid old man who sees patterns," Morse said. "And this is a pattern. This wasn't curiosity. This wasn't looking for spare cash. This was intelligence gathering. Systematic. Professional." "Why?" My voice came out hoarse. "Why would they? I don't know, but I've seen this before in my work. Data collection, preparation. This is phase 1 of something bigger." I stared at the frozen image on screen. Emma's face, calm and focused, phone in one hand, my bank statement in the other. "What do I do?" I asked. Morse leaned back in his chair. "That depends on what you're willing to accept. You could confront them, but they'll deny it, and you'll have no proof except illegal camera footage. You could do nothing and wait to see what happens next. Or what?" He looked at me with eyes that had seen too much. "You could pay attention, watch them the way they're clearly watching you, see what they're planning before they execute it." "I should call the police?" "And tell them what? That your family looked at your documents? In your apartment? With your permission to be there?" He shook his head. No crime was committed, not one a prosecutor would touch. I stood up, legs unsteady. "I need to go." "Mr. Brennan." His voice stopped me at the door. "I'm giving you this footage. I'll delete it from my system. What you do with it is your choice. But understand something. People don't gather intelligence unless they plan to use it. Whatever they're planning, it's already in motion." He handed me a USB drive. "The full 3 hours. Watch it carefully. Look for details. They sent each other messages throughout. Someone was coordinating them." I took the drive, hands shaking. "One more thing," Morse said. "Your son took photos of your medical power of attorney, your will, your insurance beneficiary forms. Think about what that means." I drove home on autopilot, his words circling my brain like vultures. Medical power of attorney. Will, beneficiary forms. Back in my apartment, I sat on the mattress and pulled out my phone, opened the text thread with Jared. His last message was from this morning. "Hope you're settling in okay, Dad. Let us know if you need anything." 17 words. Casual. Kind. The message of a good son. I scrolled back through our conversation history. Sparse. Mostly me reaching out, him responding briefly. 6 months ago, he'd needed money for car repairs. I'd sent it. Before that, nothing for 3 months. Before that, Emma had invited me to dinner, and I'd canceled because of work. I pulled up photos. Jared at 8, gap-toothed and laughing. Jared at 15, awkward and angry. Jared at 22, graduating college. Me standing beside him in the photo, proud as hell. When had I last seen that kid? When had he become this stranger who rifled through my private papers while smiling to my face? My phone buzzed. New message. Jared, left my sunglasses in your apartment yesterday. Mind if I swing by tomorrow to grab them? My finger hovered over the keyboard. Every instinct screamed to type. I know what you did. I saw the footage. Explain yourself. But Morse's words stopped me. They'll deny it. You'll have no proof. I typed. Sure. I'll be here after 4. Jared. Perfect. Thanks, Dad. I deleted the text thread and opened my laptop. Plugged in the USB drive. The video player opened, showing a grid of thumbnails. 3 hours of footage, broken into segments. I clicked on the first one and watched my son betray me in high definition. By the time I finished watching all 3 hours, it was dark outside. I'd taken notes, timestamps, actions, every time they checked their phones, every document they touched. Emma had been more thorough than Jared. She'd photographed things he'd missed, insurance policies, property deeds, the title to my car, the spare keys I kept in a drawer. But it was the messages that told the real story. I couldn't see what they said, but I could see the pattern. Jared would photograph something, check his phone, get a response, photograph something else. Emma would do the same. Someone was directing them. Someone was telling them what to look for. They'd been in that apartment for 6 hours, helping me unpack. And for at least 45 minutes total, spread across multiple entries, they'd been stealing my identity piece by piece. I thought about my ex-wife. She'd gotten half in the divorce, but she'd wanted more. She'd claimed I'd hidden assets, which was bullshit, but she'd dragged it out for months trying to prove it. Eventually, she'd given up. Or had she? I opened my phone again. Found her number, still saved under home because I'd never changed it. Typed out a message. Did you put Jared up to something? I stared at it for 5 minutes, then deleted it. Too direct, too obvious. Instead, I went to the closet and pulled out the file box. Opened it. Everything was exactly where I'd left it. No signs of disturbance. If I hadn't seen the footage, I'd never have known. I pulled out my will, read through it. Standard stuff. Everything split between Jared and his younger sister, my daughter Lisa. But Lisa was in Seattle, barely talked to me. We'd had a falling out after the divorce. She'd sided with her mother. So effectively, everything went to Jared. I looked at the medical power of attorney. In case of incapacitation, Jared had authority to make decisions. I'd signed it 5 years ago when he turned 21 because he was responsible and mature, and I trusted him. I trusted him. Past tense. I pulled out my phone and called Lisa. She didn't answer. I left a message. Hey, it's Dad. I know we haven't talked in a while. I'm calling because I moved into a new place and I wanted to let you know. Maybe we could talk sometime. Call me back. She wouldn't. I knew she wouldn't. But I needed to try. My phone buzzed again. Emma this time. Jared mentioned he left his sunglasses. We're actually in your area tomorrow afternoon. Mind if we both stop by? I'll bring coffee. I stared at that message for a long time. Both of them. Coming back. I typed, sounds good. See you then? Emma. Great. Looking forward to it. You're going to love this place once you're settled. It has such good energy. Good energy. I set my phone down and laughed. It came out harsh and ugly, echoing in the empty apartment. Good energy. Like she hadn't spent yesterday cataloging my financial life while telling me how nice the hardwood floors were. I didn't sleep that night. I lay on the mattress, staring at the ceiling, thinking about the footage, about the coordination, about the fact that they'd done this while I was 10 feet away, hauling boxes and thanking them for their help. At 3 a.m., I got up and made coffee, sat at the kitchen table with my laptop and started searching. Identity theft, financial fraud, estate planning, medical power of attorney abuse, conservatorship fraud. The rabbit hole went deep. By dawn, I understood what I was looking at. This wasn't about stealing my credit cards. This was about control, access, long-term positioning. They were setting up pieces on a board, and I was the prize in the middle. The question was, what was the end game? At 8 a.m., my phone rang. Unknown number again. I almost ignored it, but then I thought about Morse and answered. Mr. Brennan, it's Gerald Morse. I wanted to check in. Did you watch the footage? All of it. And? I don't know what to do. Silence for a moment. Then, when I worked as an engineer, I learned that the best way to understand a system is to stress test it. Apply pressure, see what breaks first. He paused. Your family is clearly planning something. The only way to find out what it is would be to disrupt their timeline. Make them move before they're ready. People make mistakes when they're rushed. How do I do that? Change something they're counting on staying the same, something that forces them to show their hand. I thought about that. Like what? I don't know your situation well enough to say, but you strike me as an intelligent man. You'll figure it out. He hung up before I could respond. I sat there with the phone in my hand, thinking about stress tests, about disruption, about forcing mistakes. Then I opened my banking app and changed all my passwords. Jared and Emma showed up at 4:30, exactly when they said they would. Emma carried a cardboard tray with 3 coffee cups. Jared had his sunglasses hooked on his shirt collar. Hey, Dad. He gave me a quick hug, patting my back twice. Place is looking better already. Getting there, I said. Emma handed me a coffee. Caramel macchiato, your favorite, right? I took it, wondering when I'd told her that. Thanks. We stood in the kitchen because I still hadn't set up the living room furniture. Emma looked around with bright, assessing eyes. You've got so much natural light in here, and these countertops are gorgeous. Quartz? Granite, I think. Even better. She sipped her coffee. You're going to be so happy here. Fresh start, you know? New chapter? New chapter. I thought about her photographing my divorce settlement and wanted to throw the coffee in her face. Instead, I smiled. That's the plan. Jared leaned against the counter. So, I was thinking, since we helped with the move, maybe we could make this a regular thing, Sunday dinners or something like we used to. We'd never done Sunday dinners, not once in his entire life, but I nodded. Sure, that'd be nice. Perfect, Emma beamed. I'll cook. I've been wanting to try this new recipe for braised short ribs. Very French. They stayed for 20 minutes, making small talk about the neighborhood and the building amenities. Emma mentioned the security cameras in the lobby. Makes you feel safe, right? Knowing someone's watching. I nearly laughed. Yeah, real safe. When they left, Jared hugged me again. Good to see you, Dad. We'll set up that dinner soon. I closed the door behind them and stood there, listening to their footsteps fade down the hall. Then I went to my bedroom closet and checked the file box. Nothing had been moved, but I hadn't expected it to be. They'd already gotten what they needed. This visit had been about something else, maintaining appearances, reinforcing normalcy, making sure I suspected nothing. I pulled out my laptop and opened the bank account I'd changed the password on that morning. Then I opened my email and scrolled through recent messages. Nothing unusual, bills, spam, a reminder about my annual physical. I clicked on the medical appointment reminder, checked the details. Dr. Fenton, internal medicine, October 15th, routine checkup. I'd scheduled it 3 months ago, back when I thought my biggest problem was high cholesterol. On impulse, I called the doctor's office. Hi, this is David Brennan. I have an appointment on the 15th. Has anyone called about me recently? Family member checking in or anything? The receptionist sounded confused. Let me check. Hold on. Muzak played for 30 seconds. Then, no, Mr. Brennan. Nothing in the notes. Is there a problem? No, just checking. Thanks. I hung up and stared at the wall. Maybe I was being paranoid. Maybe Morse's warning had gotten into my head, and I was seeing conspiracy where there was just awkward family dynamics. Then I thought about the footage. The methodical photography, the coordination, the messages. No, this was real. I spent the next 2 days pretending everything was normal. I unpacked boxes, assembled furniture, went to work. I texted Jared a funny meme about moving stress. He responded with a laughing emoji. At work, I kept my head down. I'd been with the transit authority for 23 years, managing maintenance schedules for the bus fleet. Not exciting, but it paid well and had decent benefits. I knew every mechanic in the depot by name. I knew which drivers would report minor issues and which ones would let a bus rattle itself to pieces before saying anything. My supervisor, Tom, stopped by my desk on Thursday. Hey, Dave, you settling into the new place okay? Getting there. Good. Listen, we've got a situation with bus 447. Transmission's acting up again. Can you check the maintenance history and see if we're due for a replacement or if Mitchell's just being paranoid? I pulled up the records. No, Mitchell's not paranoid. That transmission's been flagged 3 times in the past 6 months. I'll requisition a replacement. You're a lifesaver." After he walked away, I sat there staring at the screen. Maintenance records. Patterns over time. Red flags that indicate bigger problems. I'd been doing this job for 23 years. I knew how to spot when something was about to break. I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app. Checked my recent transactions. Everything looked normal. Grocery store, gas station, coffee shop, nothing unusual. Then I opened my credit monitoring app. I'd signed up for it years ago after a data breach at some retailer. I never really used it, just got the weekly summary emails that I usually ignored. I scrolled through recent alerts, nothing, clean credit, no new accounts, no inquiries. But there wouldn't be. Not yet. Whatever they were planning, they were still in the preparation phase. Morse had been right about that. They were gathering intelligence, positioning themselves, setting up the pieces. The question was, for what? On Friday evening, I did something I hadn't done in months. I drove to the neighborhood where I used to live. The house I'd shared with my ex-wife for 18 years before she decided I wasn't interesting enough anymore. It looked the same. A red brick, white trim, lawn that needed mowing. Her car was in the driveway. I parked down the street and sat there feeling like a stalker. After 10 minutes, the front door opened and she came out. Linda. Still pretty, still put together in that effortless way that had attracted me when we were 23. She got in her car and backed out of the driveway. I followed her. She drove to a restaurant downtown. Nice place. White tablecloths, valet parking. I parked on the street and watched her go inside. Through the window, I saw her wave at someone. A man stood up from a booth to greet her. Not a date, I thought. Too casual. They sat down across from each other, started talking. I couldn't see his face clearly from this angle, but his body language was familiar, the way he leaned forward, gesturing with his hands. My stomach dropped. I knew that posture. I'd watched it develop over 25 years. It was Jared. I sat in my car, hands gripping the steering wheel, watching my ex-wife and son have dinner together. They talked for over an hour. She laughed at something he said. He showed her something on his phone. She studied it carefully, nodded, said something back. They looked like co-conspirators. When they finally stood up to leave, I ducked down in my seat. They came out together, stood by the valet station. Linda hugged him. Not a polite hug, a long one. The kind that said thank you or good luck or we're in this together. Then they separated. Linda got in her car. Jared walked down the street to where his car was parked. I waited until they both drove away, then I sat there in the dark, trying to process what I'd just seen, my ex-wife and my son, meeting for dinner, not telling me. I thought about the divorce settlement, about how Linda had fought for more, about how she'd claimed I was hiding assets, about how she'd finally given up. Or had she? A new picture started forming. Jared hadn't come up with this plan himself. He was 25 years old. Smart, but not this smart. Not this calculating. Someone had taught him. Someone had planned this with him. Linda. I drove home, mind racing. When I got back to my apartment, I pulled out the USB drive and watched the footage again. This time, I focused on the messages. Every time Jared checked his phone, every time Emma checked hers, someone was responding, coordinating, directing. I paused on a frame where Jared's phone was partially visible. I couldn't read the message, but I could see the contact name at the top of the screen. Mom. I sat back, feeling cold. She'd set this up. She'd brought Emma into it. She'd coordinated the whole thing while I was 10 feet away, carrying boxes and sweating through my shirt. But why? She'd gotten half in the divorce. The house was hers. What more could she want? Then I remembered what Morse had said. Medical power of attorney, will, beneficiary forms. I opened my laptop and pulled up my life insurance policy. $500,000. Beneficiary. Gerald Brennan. I pulled up my retirement account. $400,000, give or take. Beneficiary. Gerald Brennan. The house had been worth $600,000 when we sold it. She'd gotten $300 in the settlement. I'd gotten $300 plus the retirement account. So effectively, she'd gotten half, and I'd gotten the other half plus my retirement. But if something happened to me, Jared got everything. And if Jared had medical power of attorney, he could make decisions if I became incapacitated. And if Linda was working with Jared, the math was simple. She could get everything, not just half. Everything. All she needed was for me to be out of the picture. That would be too obvious, too risky. But incapacitated, in a nursing home, declared mentally unfit to manage my own affairs? I thought about the medical records they'd photographed, my prescription history, my doctor's name, appointment dates. What could they do with that information? I pulled out my phone and called my doctor's office. It was after hours, but the answering service picked up. "This is David Brennan. I need to speak with Dr. Fenton as soon as possible. It's urgent." "Is this a medical emergency, Mr. Brennan?" "No, but I need to discuss my medical records. I believe someone may be trying to access them without my permission. I'll leave a message for Dr. Fenton to call you first thing Monday morning." "Thank you." I hung up and sat there in the dark apartment, listening to the buildings settle around me. Pipes humming, footsteps above, a door closing somewhere down the hall. I thought about the past year, about how Jared had suddenly started calling more often, about how Emma had appeared in his life seemingly overnight, and then they were engaged, and then they were married, all within 6 months. About how Linda had been so supportive of the marriage, even though she'd never liked any of Jared's previous girlfriends. It had been a setup, all of it. They'd been planning this for months, maybe longer, positioning the pieces. Emma was probably part of it from the start. A plant, someone Linda had found or recruited or trained, and I'd been the perfect mark, lonely, trusting, desperate for my kid to care about me again after the divorce had torn the family apart. My phone buzzed, text from Jared. "Hey Dad, I know it's late, but I wanted to check in. You doing okay over there?" I stared at that message for a long time. The caring son, the good kid, the lie. I typed, "I'm good. Thanks for checking." Jared, "Anytime. Love you. Love you." I deleted the conversation and opened a new browser window. Started searching. How to protect yourself from financial abuse. How to revoke power of attorney. How to change beneficiaries. Elder abuse warning signs. I wasn't elderly, but the mechanisms were the same. Isolate the target, gain their trust, access their finances, position for control, execute. I stayed up until 3 a.m., reading, learning, understanding the system they were working within. Morse had been right. If you want to understand something, you stress test it. You apply pressure, or you see what breaks. But first, you have to understand how it's built. By dawn, I had a plan. Not a complete plan, but the beginning of one. I knew what they wanted. I knew how they were trying to get it. Now I needed to figure out who else was involved and how far they were willing to go, and I needed to do it without them knowing I was watching. I called in sick to work on Monday. Tom didn't question it. I never called in sick. I spent the day making phone calls, first to my bank. I added additional security to my accounts. 2-factor authentication, verbal password, notification for every transaction over $50. Then I called my lawyer, the one who'd handled the divorce. His name was Robert Sterling, and he'd been competent but not aggressive. I'd fired him halfway through the proceedings and handled the rest myself. "Mr. Brennan," he said when his secretary put me through, "it's been a while. What can I do for you?" "I need to revoke a power of attorney and change my beneficiaries. How quickly can we do that?" "Depends on the complexity. If it's straightforward, I can have documents ready by end of week. But I have to ask, is there a reason for the urgency?" "Let's just say I'm reconsidering some of my estate planning decisions." "I see. Well, I'll need you to come in and sign some forms. Can you do tomorrow at 10? I'll be there." After I hung up, I sat there feeling something like satisfaction. First move made. I'd changed the password to my banking app, and now I'd revoke Jared's power of attorney and change the beneficiaries on everything. They'd have no access, no leverage, no path to what they wanted. Then I thought about what Morse had said. Make them move before they're ready. People make mistakes when they're rushed. Changing everything would cut off their access, but it wouldn't tell me what the full plan was, it wouldn't tell me who else was involved, and it wouldn't give me leverage over them. I needed more information. I called Morse. "Mr. Brennan," he said, "I was hoping I'd hear from you. I need your help." "With what?" "I need to follow someone, my son and his wife. I need to know where they're going, who they're meeting with. But I can't do it myself. They'll notice." Silence. Then, "You're asking me to conduct surveillance." "I'm asking for advice." More silence. "In my experience, the best surveillance is passive. You don't follow, you track. GPS on the car, software on the phone, but that requires access." "I can get access." "Can you, without them knowing?" "Good question." "I'll figure it out." "Mr. Brennan, may I offer some unsolicited advice?" "Go ahead." Be very careful about the line you're crossing. There's a difference between protecting yourself and becoming the thing you're afraid of. Right now, they're the ones gathering intelligence, invading privacy, planning something potentially harmful. If you do the same thing, you're just as bad. Not if I'm doing it in self-defense. Self-defense is a legal concept, Mr. Brennan. Ethics are murkier. Just be careful. Don't lose yourself in this. I hung up, feeling less certain. He was right. There was a line. But they'd crossed it first, hadn't they? They'd violated my privacy, stolen my information, conspired behind my back. I was just evening the score. At 11 p.m., I drove to Jared's apartment. He and Emma lived in a complex across town, nicer than mine, which meant Linda was probably subsidizing them. I parked down the street and waited. Their lights were on. I could see shadows moving behind the curtains. After 20 minutes, the lights went off. I waited another hour to make sure they were asleep. Then I got out of my car and walked to the parking lot. Found Jared's car. A Honda Civic. 4 years old, nothing special. I pulled out my phone and searched for cheap GPS trackers. Found one on Amazon that I could order for next-day delivery. Magnetic mount, real-time tracking, small enough to hide under the bumper. I placed the order and went home. The tracker arrived Tuesday afternoon. Installation took 5 minutes. Wednesday morning, I drove back to Jared's complex and waited for him to leave for work. When he did, I followed him at a distance, watching the GPS dot on my phone screen instead of his actual car. It worked perfectly. He went to a coffee shop, then to an office building downtown. I recognized the address. It was where Emma's design firm was located. They must work in the same building, I realized. Convenient. At lunchtime, Jared's car moved again. I followed the dot to a restaurant. Then the dot stopped, stayed in place for 90 minutes. I drove over, parked across the street, and watched. Jared came out with 2 people, a man and a woman, both around his age. They looked professional, business casual. They shook hands with Jared, then got into separate cars. I took photos. Over the next week, I tracked Jared's movements every day. Most were mundane: work, home, grocery store, gym. But twice he met with the same man from the restaurant, and once he drove to Linda's house and stayed for 3 hours. I didn't follow him inside, but I sat in my car down the street watching the dot on my screen pulse steadily, wondering what they were talking about, what they were planning. On Friday, I had my appointment with Robert Sterling. He had the documents ready: power of attorney revocation, new beneficiary designation forms. All I had to do was sign. "Before you do," Sterling said, "I have to ask, are you sure about this? These are significant changes. If your son finds out, it could damage your relationship?" I almost laughed. Our relationship is already damaged. "May I ask what happened?" I thought about telling him, about the footage, the surveillance, the conspiracy, but I didn't. Let's just say I've learned some things about my son that changed my perspective. Sterling nodded slowly. "All right, sign here, here, and here." I signed. He notarized the documents and gave me copies. "These are effective immediately. Your son no longer has power of attorney. Your beneficiaries are now split between your daughter and a charity of your choice. You'll need to update these with your bank and insurance company." "I will, thank you." Walking out of his office, I felt lighter. First barrier erected. But it wasn't enough. I needed to know what they were planning. I needed to understand the end game so I could prevent it. That night, my phone rang. Linda. I stared at the screen, debating whether to answer. Then I picked up. "David," she said. Her voice was warm, almost friendly. "How are you?" "I'm fine. What do you want?" "I heard you moved. Jared mentioned it. I just wanted to check in, make sure you were doing okay." "I'm fine," I repeated. "Good. That's good." She paused. "I also wanted to say I'm sorry about how things ended. I know it was hard on both of us, but especially on you. You didn't deserve that." I almost believed her. Almost. It's in the past. I know, but I've been thinking lately about how we could have handled things better. For Jared's sake, if nothing else. He needs both his parents. He has both his parents. Right. Of course. Another pause. "Listen, I was wondering if you'd want to have coffee sometime. Just to talk. Clear the air. No drama, no lawyers. Just 2 people who used to care about each other." Every alarm bell in my head went off. Why now? Because life's short, David, and I don't want us to spend the rest of it avoiding each other. "I'll think about it. That's all I ask. Take care of yourself." She hung up. I sat there, phone in hand, thinking about that conversation. The timing was too perfect. I just revoked Jared's power of attorney and changed my beneficiaries. Could they know already? Was Linda reaching out to smooth things over, to keep me compliant and unaware? Or was I being paranoid? I pulled out my laptop and opened the GPS tracker app. Jared's car was at his apartment. Emma's car, I'd put a tracker on hers too, was at the same location. A third dot, also at their apartment. I clicked on it to check the details. The device ID matched one I'd seen before. Linda's car, all three of them were together. Right now. I grabbed my keys and drove across town, parked in my usual spot down the street from Jared's complex and watched. The lights in his apartment were on. I could see shadows moving, multiple people. They were having a meeting. About what? I pulled out my phone and opened the voice recording app. Then I got out of my car and walked to the apartment building. The main door required a key card, but residents came and went every few minutes. I waited for someone to exit and caught the door before it closed. Inside, I climbed the stairs to the third floor. Found Jared's apartment. 3C. I stood outside the door, listening, voices muffled. I couldn't make out words. I held my phone up to the door and started recording. The voices came through clearer now. Jared's voice. Has to be soon. He's already suspicious. Emma. How do you know? Jared. He changed his banking password. And he's been distant. Something's off. Linda's voice. Then we move up the timeline. How soon can you get the forms filed? A man's voice I didn't recognize. 2 weeks, maybe less if we expedite. Do it, Linda said. The longer we wait, the more risk there is. I stopped breathing. Forms filed. Timeline moved up. What forms? I kept recording. The conversation shifted to logistics, dates, signatures, something about a notary. Emma asked about costs, and the unknown man quoted a figure, $5,000. Worth it, Linda said. We've come this far. The conversation ended. I heard movement, people standing up. I pocketed my phone and walked quickly down the hallway, down the stairs, out of the building. Got in my car just as the apartment building door opened and Linda came out, followed by the unknown man. I slumped down in my seat as they walked to the parking lot. Linda got in her car. The man got into a silver Lexus. I took a photo of his license plate. After they drove away, I sat there, shaking. I pulled out my phone and played back the recording. The quality was poor, but good enough. I could hear everything they'd said. Forms filed, timeline moved up, 2 weeks. What were they planning? I drove home and spent the rest of the night researching conservatorship petitions, guardianship filings, mental competency hearings, the legal mechanisms for taking control of someone's affairs without their consent. That's what they were doing. They were going to try to have me declared incompetent. They'd file a petition with the court, present evidence, probably falsified or exaggerated, and get a judge to grant them authority over my finances, my medical care, my life. And once they had that, they could do anything. Empty my accounts, sell my assets, put me in a facility. I'd have no recourse because legally I'd be declared unable to manage my own affairs. It was elegant, brutal, and entirely legal if they could convince a judge. I thought about the medical records they'd photographed. My age, 52. Not elderly, but old enough that cognitive decline was plausible. If they could get my doctor to testify, or if they falsified medical records, or if they staged incidents that made me look unstable, I needed a lawyer. A real one this time. Not Sterling, who'd been adequate but uninspired. I needed someone who understood elder law, guardianship abuse, family conflicts. I searched until I found a name. Patricia Alvarez. Family law specialist, formerly a prosecutor, reputation for being aggressive and uncompromising. I called her office first thing Thursday morning. Ms. Alvarez's office, the receptionist said. I need to speak with Ms. Alvarez about a potential conservatorship case. It's urgent. She has an opening tomorrow at 2 p.m. Can you make that? Yes. Name? David Brennan. I hung up and stared at the calendar. Tomorrow was Friday. They'd said 2 weeks. That meant they were filing the petition soon, maybe as early as next week. I needed to move faster. That afternoon, I called Dr. Fenton's office and asked to move up my annual physical. The receptionist found a cancellation slot for Monday morning. I took it. Then I called my bank and asked to meet with the manager. I explained that I was concerned about potential fraud and wanted to set up additional security measures. She scheduled me for Tuesday. I was building a paper trail. Evidence that I was competent, proactive, in control of my faculties. When they filed their petition, I'd have documentation to counter it. But it wasn't enough. I needed to know exactly what they were planning so I could get ahead of it. I pulled up the recording from Jared's apartment and listened to it again. The unknown man's voice. Professional, confident. He'd talked about forms and filing timelines like he'd done this before. He was a lawyer. Had to be. I pulled up the photo of his license plate and ran it through a reverse lookup service. Cost me $40, but it gave me a name and address. Kenneth Hall, attorney, office in downtown. I looked him up. His website listed his specialties: estate planning, probate, guardianship law. There it was. I had a name, I had a plan. Now I needed evidence. I didn't sleep. At 5 a.m., I gave up trying and made coffee. By 6, I was dressed and ready. Court didn't open until 8, but I wanted to be there early. Alvarez had said we needed to file first before they could. Get our version on record before theirs. I drove downtown in the pre-dawn dark, parked in a public garage, and walked to the courthouse. The building was massive, concrete and glass, imposing in the way government buildings always are. Made you feel small. Alvarez was already there, standing on the steps with a briefcase in hand. She saw me and nodded. Right on time. Court opens in 90 minutes. We'll file as soon as the clerk's office opens. And then? Then we wait. They'll file theirs, probably within an hour of us. The cases will be assigned to a judge. We'll request an emergency hearing to consolidate them and present evidence. After that, it's up to the court. How long? Days, maybe a week. Conservatorship cases move quickly because they involve alleged incapacity. The court won't let someone languish if they're genuinely unable to care for themselves. I can care for myself. I know, and we'll prove it. At 7:30, the courthouse doors opened. We went inside, through security, up to the clerk's office on the 3rd floor. Alvarez had a thick stack of documents. She handed them to the clerk, who stamped them and entered them into the system. David Brennan versus Gerald Brennan et al., the clerk read aloud. Petition for declaratory judgment and injunctive relief. Filed at 7:42 a.m. Thank you, Alvarez said. We stepped aside and waited. At 8:15, Kenneth Hall walked into the clerk's office. He saw us and stopped. Alvarez smiled at him. Kenneth, fancy meeting you here? Hall's expression didn't change. Patricia, I didn't know you were involved in this matter. I'm representing Mr. Brennan. I assume you're here to file on behalf of Linda and Gerald Brennan? That's correct. Well, you'll find we've already filed. Our petition should be on top of the stack. Hall approached the clerk and handed over his documents. The clerk stamped them. Gerald Brennan and Linda Brennan versus David Brennan. Petition for appointment of conservator. Filed at 8:17 a.m. Hall turned to Alvarez. It doesn't matter who filed first. The merit of the case is what matters. I agree, and your case has no merit. In fact, I'm arguing it's frivolous and fraudulent. I look forward to proving that in court. Hall didn't respond. He just walked out. Alvarez turned to me. Now we wait for the assignments. Come on, let's get coffee. We sat in a cafe across from the courthouse, drinks untouched, both of us watching the clock. At 9:30, Alvarez's phone buzzed. She read the message and nodded. Cases have been consolidated, assigned to Judge Raymond Cooper. Emergency hearing is set for Friday morning at 10 a.m. That gives us 4 days to prepare. 4 days? It's fast, but it works in our favor. They won't have time to manufacture additional evidence. Everything they present will be what they've already gathered. And everything we present will demonstrate that you're competent and they're conspirators. She leaned forward. But you need to stay clean between now and then. No following them, no recording them, no contact whatsoever. If they can point to erratic behavior, it undermines our case. I won't contact them. Good. Go to work. Live your life normally. Let me handle the legal side. I went home, called Tom, and told him I'd be back Wednesday. He sounded relieved. Good to hear, Dave. We've got a backlog of maintenance issues piling up. I'll take care of it. Tuesday and Wednesday, I went to work, did my job, reviewed schedules, signed off on repairs, talked to mechanics about transmission problems and brake replacements. Normal, routine, exactly what I'd been doing for 23 years. Tom stopped by my desk Wednesday afternoon. You seem better. Whatever was going on, I hope it's resolved. Getting there. Good. You're one of the most reliable people here, Dave. We need you. I appreciated that. Someone needed me. For something legitimate. Thursday, Alvarez called. I'm finalizing our presentation for tomorrow. We're going to argue that the conservatorship petition is motivated by financial gain and personal animus. We're presenting the recording from Jared's apartment, the evidence of Linda's relationship with Hall, the medical evaluation from Dr. Fenton, and your financial records showing competent management. We're also presenting the footage from the hidden camera. You said that wasn't admissible. It's not admissible as evidence against them, but it's admissible as evidence of your state of mind. You saw your family rifling through your documents. Any reasonable person would be suspicious and defensive after seeing that. It explains your behavior and demonstrates that you're not paranoid. You're responding rationally to actual threats. Will it work? I think so, but Cooper's a tough judge. He doesn't suffer fools, and he doesn't like his courtroom being used for personal vendettas. If he thinks this is a family squabble, he might dismiss both cases and tell us to work it out. But if he sees a genuine conspiracy, he'll come down hard. What should I expect tomorrow? You'll testify. They'll cross-examine. It won't be pleasant. Hall's going to try to paint you as unstable, paranoid, possibly dangerous. You need to stay calm. Answer questions directly. Don't get emotional. Don't get defensive. Just tell the truth. I can do that. I know you can. Get some sleep. I'll see you in the morning. I didn't sleep that night either. By morning, I was running on coffee and adrenaline. Alvarez called at noon. The ruling just came through. I'm reading it now. And? She was quiet for a moment. Then, we won? Sort of. What does that mean? Judge Cooper dismissed their conservatorship petition. He found no evidence of incapacity. He noted that your behavior, while unusual, was a rational response to perceived threats. He also noted that the relationship between Linda Brennan and Kenneth Hall raised questions about the petition's motives. That's good, right? Yes, but he also dismissed our petition for sanctions. He said this was a family dispute and that both sides acted with some degree of bad faith. He's ordering everyone to stay away from each other. No contact, no surveillance. If anyone violates that order, they'll face contempt charges. So I can't track them anymore? No, and they can't file another conservatorship petition without new evidence. It's a wash. Nobody wins, nobody loses, except the lawyers who get paid. I sat down, feeling deflated. So it's over. Legally? Yes. Practically? That depends on them. If they leave you alone, it's over. If they try something else, we'll deal with it. Thank you. You're welcome. Go live your life, Mr. Brennan, and try not to make any more illegal recordings. I hung up and stared at the wall. It was over. The petition was dismissed. I was safe, but I didn't feel safe. I spent the weekend trying to return to normal. I went to work on Monday. Tom clapped me on the shoulder. Good to have you back full time. Everything okay now? Yeah, everything's fine. It wasn't fine. I kept checking the GPS trackers out of habit, then remembering I wasn't supposed to. I kept looking over my shoulder, expecting to see Jared or Emma or Linda. But they weren't there. The court had drawn a line, and apparently they were respecting it. 2 weeks passed. Then a month. I unpacked the rest of the boxes, assembled the furniture, made the apartment feel like home. I went to work, came home, lived alone. My phone rang one evening in late November, unknown number. Mr. Brennan, this is Gerald Morse. Mr. Morse, hi. I wanted to check in. I heard about the court case. Congratulations on the dismissal. How did you hear about that? Court records are public. I've been following the case. I'm glad you prevailed. Thank you. I appreciate your help. If you hadn't shown me that footage, I never would have known. I did what I thought was right, but I'm calling for another reason. I've been thinking about that camera, about what it captured, and I realized something. What? I never deleted the files like I said I would. I kept them, just in case. And last week, I reviewed them again. There's something I didn't notice before, something you should see. My stomach tightened. What is it? I'd rather show you in person. Can you come by this evening? I drove to his house, that same meticulously maintained ranch with the perfect lawn. Morse let me in and led me to his office. Sit down, he said. This is going to be difficult. He opened his computer and pulled up the footage. I'd seen it dozens of times by now. Jared photographing documents, Emma doing the same. But Morse fast-forwarded to a section I hadn't focused on before, Emma alone in the bedroom. 3:47 p.m. She was on her phone, texting. The camera angle caught her screen partially. I could see fragments of messages. Morse paused the video. I enhanced this section, cleaned up the image. You can see more of what she was typing now. He clicked a button, and the image sharpened. The text on Emma's phone became visible. Got the account numbers. Also found his medical POA. This is easier than we thought. A response appeared. Good. Make sure you get everything. We can't come back for more. Emma typed. I know. Jay is being careful too. He's got the insurance docs. Response. Perfect. Once we file, we'll have full access. Then we can move everything offshore. I stared at the screen. Offshore? Morse nodded. They weren't planning a conservatorship to help you. They were planning to drain your accounts and move the money where you couldn't recover it. But the petition was dismissed? Yes. But they didn't know it would be, and even now, they might try something else. He closed the laptop. I'm showing you this because you deserve to know the full extent of what they were planning, and because I think you should consider going to the police. The police didn't care before. Before, you didn't have evidence of conspiracy to commit fraud. Now you do. These messages show intent, planning, coordination. That's criminal. I thought about it. Going to the police, filing charges, watching my son get arrested. It felt like crossing a line I couldn't uncross. I need to think about it, I said. Don't think too long. If they try again, it'll be harder to stop them. I went home and sat in the dark, thinking about those messages. Offshore accounts, full access. This is easier than we thought. They'd been planning to rob me blind, and if the conservatorship had gone through, they would have succeeded. The next morning, I called Alvarez. I have new evidence. Text messages showing they plan to move my assets offshore. How did you get these messages? They were captured on the hidden camera footage. The previous owner enhanced the images. Send them to me. If they show criminal intent, we can take this to the DA. I sent the images. An hour later, she called back. This is prosecutable. The DA's office will be interested. I'll set up a meeting. 3 days later, I sat in a conference room with Alvarez and an assistant district attorney named James Reeves. He reviewed the evidence. The footage, the enhanced text messages, the court records, everything. This is conspiracy to commit financial fraud, Reeves said. Potentially elder abuse, though you don't quite meet the age threshold, but we can prosecute. The question is, do you want to? What happens if you prosecute? We file charges against Gerald Brennan, Emma Brennan, and Linda Brennan. If convicted, they're looking at felony fraud, prison time, restitution, but it's a public process. It'll be in the news. Your family will be destroyed permanently. I thought about Jared as a kid. 8 years old, gap-toothed, laughing. 22, graduating college, proud and hopeful. Then I thought about him standing in my bedroom, photographing my life insurance policy, planning to steal everything I'd worked for. Do it, I said. Reeves nodded. All right, we'll move forward. This might take months, but we'll keep you informed. I left that meeting feeling something close to relief. It was out of my hands now. The system would handle it. Justice would be served. 2 weeks later, the arrests were made. Jared, Emma, and Linda were taken into custody, booked, and released on bail. The charges were public: conspiracy to commit fraud, attempted financial exploitation, abuse of process. It made the local news, not the front page, but enough. Family accused of conspiring to defraud relative. Jared's mugshot appeared on TV. I turned it off. My phone rang constantly. Reporters, old friends, co-workers. Everyone wanted to know what had happened. I didn't answer. Tom stopped by my desk. Dave, I saw the news. I'm so sorry. It's not your fault. Still, if you need time off, take it. I'm good. Work is the only thing keeping me sane. The preliminary hearing was set for January. Until then, there was nothing to do but wait. In December, Linda called. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. David, please, we need to talk. This has gone too far. Can we meet just to talk? I deleted it. Jared called next. I didn't answer. He texted, Dad, I'm sorry. I know I messed up. Can we talk, please? I blocked his number. Emma sent a message through a mutual acquaintance. Tell David I never wanted this. It was Linda's idea. I'm sorry. I didn't respond. Christmas came and went. I spent it alone in my apartment, eating takeout and watching old movies. My daughter Lisa called from Seattle. We hadn't talked in over a year. Dad, it's me. Lisa, hi. I saw the news about Jared and Mom. I wanted to check on you. I'm okay. Are you? Because it sounds like a nightmare. It was, but it's over now. Is it? Good question. I don't know. She was quiet for a moment. Then, I'm sorry I haven't been around. After the divorce, I took Mom's side because I don't know what I thought, but I was wrong. I should have stayed in touch. It's okay. It's not? But I want to fix it. Can I come visit? After the holidays? Yeah, I'd like that. We talked for an hour. About her job, her life in Seattle, the things we'd missed in each other's lives. It felt good. Like maybe something could be salvaged from this wreckage. In January, the preliminary hearing happened. I sat in the courtroom with Alvarez while the DA presented evidence. The footage, the text messages, the timeline of events. The defense argued there was no crime, just a family disagreement. The judge disagreed. There's sufficient evidence to proceed to trial. Bail is continued. Trial date is set for March. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. I didn't talk to them. Alvarez made a brief statement. My client is a victim of a coordinated scheme to defraud him. We're confident the jury will see that. Hall made his own statement. This prosecution is vindictive and baseless. My clients acted out of concern for Mr. David Brennan's well-being. The media ate it up. Between January and March, I tried to move on with my life. I went to work. I saw Lisa when she visited in February. She stayed for a week, and we talked about everything. The divorce, the family, the betrayal. She cried. I didn't. How are you not angrier? She asked. I was angry. Now I'm just tired. What happens if they go to prison? Then they go to prison. And you're okay with that? I thought about it. I don't know, but it's not up to me anymore. It's up to the jury. The trial started in mid-March. It lasted 2 weeks. I testified. So did Morse, Dr. Fenton, the forensic accountant. The prosecution presented the footage, the text messages, the court records from the conservatorship case. The defense called character witnesses, people who said Jared was a good son. Emma was a kind person. Linda was devoted to her family. They painted me as vindictive, paranoid, unwilling to accept help. The jury deliberated for 3 days. On the 4th day, they came back with a verdict. Guilty on all counts. All 3 defendants. Sentencing was set for 2 weeks later. I sat in the courtroom and watched Jared's face as the verdict was read. He looked broken. Emma cried. Linda stared straight ahead, expressionless. Outside, Alvarez shook my hand. Justice was served. Yeah, you should feel good about this. I should. But I didn't. I felt empty. 2 weeks later, I sat in the same courtroom for sentencing. Judge Cooper, the same judge who'd presided over the conservatorship case, delivered the sentences. This was a calculated, coordinated effort to defraud a family member. The defendants abused legal processes, violated trust, and caused significant emotional and financial harm. Gerald Brennan, you are sentenced to 18 months in prison, followed by 3 years of probation. Emma Brennan, you are sentenced to 12 months, followed by 3 years of probation. Linda Brennan, you are sentenced to 2 years, followed by 5 years of probation. All 3 defendants are ordered to pay restitution in the amount of $75,000 to cover Mr. David Brennan's legal fees and associated costs. The bailiff led them away. Jared looked back at me once. I didn't look away. Outside, reporters asked how I felt. I said, I feel like I did what I had to do. That night, I sat in my apartment, fully unpacked now, finally feeling like home, and thought about everything that had happened, the move, the footage, the conspiracy, the trial, the verdict. I thought about Morse's warning. Don't lose yourself in this. Had I lost myself? I didn't know. I'd protected myself, fought back, won. But what had I won? My son was going to prison. My ex-wife, too. My family was destroyed. I pulled out my phone and called Lisa. Hey, Dad. Hey, I wanted to hear your voice. You okay? Yeah, I'm okay. The sentencing was today, right? Yeah. How do you feel? Honestly, I don't know. She was quiet. Then, you did the right thing. You know that, right? I hope so. You did. They tried to hurt you and you stopped them. That's not wrong. Thanks. We talked for a while longer. After we hung up, I sat in the silence and realized something. I wasn't empty. I was relieved. It was over. Really over. They couldn't hurt me anymore. I poured a glass of whiskey, something I hadn't done since the divorce, and raised it to the empty apartment. To new beginnings, I said, and I drank.